This past year and a half, I've worked out at home. It started with just a barbell and a DIY deadlift platform. Then it turned into us clearing part of our shed, which was awesome because that meant I didn't have to work out in the rain and the snow anymore, but it was still a bit cramped. So we tore down one of the walls, fixed the worst part of the floor, and now I had room for a power rack. And so this is my home gym today. The roof needs fixing as it leaks when there's heavy rain. The shed is not insulated either, so it still gets down to freezing temperatures. But yet, I'd still choose this over any gym membership. That's weird, isn't it? Those things are issues I can fix in time. But even with the way things are right now, there's just something so incredibly convenient about having a home gym. The biggest thing for me is that I don't have anyone to compare myself to or get distracted by. I can just focus on myself. And I don't live close to a gym, so not having any transport at all makes a huge difference as well. When I started, I didn't have any space available except outside. So what I did was make a deadlift platform out of plywood and rubber mats. There's plenty of tutorials here on YouTube on how to do exactly that. So I basically copied what some of those guys did and it worked out great. After that, I got a cheap barbell and a few 10 kilo plates. The platform itself is very heavy and unhandy in itself with the way that I made it. So getting it outside was really bothersome, but that was the beginning. And it always makes sense to start with what you can. Here in the beginning, I did deadlifts, rows, overhead presses, and then I also quickly started to incorporate floor presses as well in my routine. With small variations, this was basically my workout plan for the first 3 or 4 months. Obviously, that's not the best workout plan ever, but it was very easy to get started with as it was very simple, and it was movements that I could do without a power rack or squat stand. The previous owner of this house left a lot of his old things when he moved out. This meant that our shit was filled up with all sorts of stuff. So when we finally got that sorted out and cleared that part of the shed, it meant that there was finally room for my deadlift platform inside. There was this huge ventilation hole in the wall, which meant that it was just as cold inside as it was outside, but still just not having to worry about getting shelter from rain and snow meant a big deal to me. Our shed has quite a few different rooms, so the next thing we did was tear down one side of the wall. This left the floor quite uneven though, so the next thing after that was to smooth out the floor a little bit and fix the ventilation hole. So I did that as best as I could. I didn't get it perfect, far from it, but it was still way better than the start, and now I had room for a power rack. I was fortunate enough to be able to afford one with a cable tower. So now the biggest limitation to what I could do for my training was the low ceiling. Because the ceiling is so low, I can't do any standing overhead presses, but all in all, this really did change my training in a huge way. I actually have a review video of the power rack in case you're interested, so I'll leave a link in the description to that. Since getting the power rack, not much has changed in the shed. I got some storage for the attachments and I got some bands. I still have yet to insulate the shed and fix the roof. In the beginning, my workouts were pretty simple. Not only to get used to training, but also because I had no real experience making training programs and I had very limited equipment. But week by week, I learned to push myself harder and harder. It came pretty naturally as part of wanting to add more weight and more reps to every exercise. And since I ate in a caloric surplus, I could recover fast enough to keep adding more weight. And progress in the beginning was fast. It really was. I could add weight every single session. Around the time I got my power rack, I bought a training program from Alex Leonidas. Not because you have to buy a training program or it's absolutely necessary, but because I really like his way of training and I wanted to support him as I've been following his content for quite a while. And with that, my workouts got way more structured and I began to have a lot more fun again. This simple training program that I had made for myself in the beginning was getting quite boring, honestly. There was little to no variation, and doing the same thing week after week after week, it just becomes boring at some point. For the first 8 months or so, I was bulking, and I progressed every single week. As soon as I began to cut, I cut maybe a bit too aggressively, but all my main lifts went down or at least stagnated. My accessories still improved a little bit, but progress was getting much slower. When I had trained for nearly a year, my wife gave birth to our second kid. This meant that all routines that I previously had were just completely thrown out the window for a few months. So I got little to no training done, and my diet was lackluster to say the least. I've always been quite skinny for most of my life, and when I don't track my macros, I tend to undereat. So I dropped a few extra kilos, even though I had already completed my cut. And along with no training or anything, this meant that I was set back quite a bit in terms of my strength and my progress. Getting back into it again was both rough and really nice at the same time. It's always rough to come back lighter and weaker, but a lot of progress came back quickly. So I got into it around March, and right now I'm back at 77 kilos, and I'm at the height of my strength again, despite being 7 kilos lighter than I was at the heaviest of my last bulk. So I'll take that as a sign of progress and a sign that I'll be able to smash my old records pretty soon. I'm still learning, but so far I've enjoyed the journey. I feel like despite quite a long break, I've made some decent progress. Strength-wise, I still think I'm a bit of a novice. My bench press 1 rep max is 115 kilos, my dip is 60 kilos, my deadlift is 150 kilos, and my squat is 110 kilos. Now, the squat 1 rep max is a bit skewed since I haven't really been squatting at all since a few weeks ago, when I realized that weak quads are probably holding back my deadlift. So for now, I'll keep bulking slowly and seeing how far I can get.